Hey everyone, welcome to the Foundry by Forge College. I'm super excited about today's explainer because we get to do something incredibly satisfying. We are going to take those messy, headache-inducing timestamps you hoarded in the last lesson and transform them into a sleek, undeniable capstone efficiency report for Solana's Gulfstream. It is time to turn that digital spaghetti into absolute proof.
So here's our game plan for today. We'll start with a welcome to the capstone, then break down the anatomy of the report, dive into the diagnostic lab model, learn how to read the vitals, go through the 4-step workflow, and finally, wrap it all up with packaging and evaluation.
All right, Section 1. Welcome to the capstone, moving from raw data to verifiable evidence. You know, raw, unstructured timestamps, they're just messy, they're noisy. Honestly, they're a total headache for any evaluator trying to decipher your work. What we really need to do is translate all that raw data into summarized metrics. We want it clean, verifiable, and above all, actionable. Because think about it, you want to hand your evaluators something they can verify in a snap, right? Not force them to go digging through literal millions of random events. Moving on to Section 2. This is the anatomy of the report, or as I like to call it, building the patient's chart. So, there are 4 absolute must-haves that evaluators are hunting for in your report: methodology, data and artifacts, results, and limitations. And listen, if you skip even one of these, well, it's basically like handing a doctor a medical chart with 0 patient history. They can't make a diagnosis, and they are definitely not going to pass your capstone. When it comes to your methodology and data, precision is literally your best friend. You've got to point exactly to your data files. I'm talking specific names like tx_flows_2026-03-15.csv and give the exact commit hash of your analysis code. No vague stuff like, oh, we ran the script. Evaluators have to be able to trace your claims back to the hard evidence, step by exact step. Now, what about limitations? Please do not try to sweep your uncertainties under the rug. Frame them as honest, straightforward lab notes. Did you experience clock skew? What about dropped samples? Document all of it. Showing your evaluators that you grasp the messy realities of real-world networks actually builds a ton of trust. It proves you're a rigorous engineer, not some kind of illusionist. Okay, Section 3, the diagnostic lab model. It's time to check Solana's vital signs.
To make sense of all this, think of forwarding latency as the system's pulse rate. It gives us an immediate, visceral read on exactly how quickly Gulfstream is moving transactions from ingress over to the validators. A nice, fast pulse means everything is moving smoothly. But a sluggish pulse? Yeah, we might need to grab the defibrillator. In that same vein, the Q depth at ingress acts as our respiration rate. It shows us just how hard the system is breathing when it's put under a heavy load. If you see that Q depth spike, Gulfstream is essentially hyperventilating. That indicates some really intense pressure and a major bottleneck right at the front door. Which brings us to Section 4, reading the vitals, comparing a baseline versus a heavy load. Let's actually compare a healthy, resting baseline to the stress of a heavy load. At baseline, the forwarding latency is sitting at a very healthy 2.5 milliseconds. But throw a heavy load at it, and boom, it spikes to 6.8 milliseconds. And the Q depth? That explodes from just 3 transactions up to 18. That is a massive 6-fold buildup. Even the commit lag stretches way out. So as you can see, this gives us a crystal clear picture of a network that is under some extreme pressure. And here is exactly how you want to translate those vitals right into your results section. Quote, under heavy load, median forwarding latency increased by approximately 4.3 milliseconds, and Q depth increased 6-fold. Notice what's missing there? The fluff. It's just a clear, actionable statement that ties directly back to a specific row in your data. That's exactly what we want. All right, Section 5. This is the 4-step workflow, also known as our lab protocol. When you're building out your final submission, you absolutely have to follow a strict linear lab protocol. It's a simple 4-step flow. You regenerate, summarize, document, and finally, package. Sticking to the specific, linear path is crucial because it ensures you don't accidentally skip a step or end up cherry-picking your data without realizing it. So step 1 is regenerate, and this is here to guarantee that your scripts actually run in a completely clean environment. You're going to take your raw CSV file, run your aggregation script on it, and output a nice, clean metrics_summary.csv. Look, if you can't regenerate this step from scratch, your whole report is pretty much going to fall apart right out of the gate. Next up is step 2, summarize.
Now, you really have to resist the urge here to flood your evaluator with dozens of messy, raw plots. Just don't do it. Instead, provide one or two crystal clear visuals. Something like a simple bar chart comparing median forwarding latency. Give it a clear axis label, a short little caption, and you're golden. Remember, we are going for clarity over quantity every single time. Finally, we reach Section 6, Packaging and Evaluation. Time to prepare for discharge. Your ultimate deliverable here is the artifact bundle. Think of this as the literal boxed-up patient chart that is completely ready for discharge. Practically speaking, it needs to be a neatly zipped file, ideally under 50 megabytes, that contains your summarized data, your scripts, and a README manifest that details all of your environment notes. And tucked right inside that README is the reproducer command. I'd argue this is probably the single most important sentence in your entire submission. It's the exact copy-paste terminal command an evaluator will use to recreate all your tables from scratch. If they run it and get your exact results, boom, your capstone is officially verified. As you're putting the final touches on this, I want you to burn this golden rule into your mind. Every claim must link to a named dataset. Evaluators are kind of like ruthless health inspectors. If you're going to make a bold claim about Gulfstream's efficiency, well, it better have a glowing neon data trail leading straight back to a specific file and line number. So as we wrap up this explainer and you get ready for your final submission, I want you to ask yourself, if an evaluator runs your code right this second, does the network pulse strong or does your data flatline? The evidence is entirely in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me today for this explainer by Forge College. Be sure to visit forge.college to master even more advanced Web3 concepts and really dive deeper into the incredible mechanics of Solana. Happy analyzing.